What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. And remember Steven Dorff? You might have remembered him from Blade, or maybe his vape commercials, or many of his, Z-list movies that he's been in. But he just got over on Marvel and absolutely clowned Black Widow. Now, of course, Twitter taking the path of least resistance, dunking on Steven Dorff for really not being on the same level as Scarlett Johansson, which I think is a fair roast. But interestingly enough, he just said he blasts Marvel films and he is embarrassed for Black Widow. I mean, I'm embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson for being in Black Widow. Now, interestingly, look, Blade I thought was a pretty good movie, especially given the time. Blade star Steven Dorff blasts Marvel films embarrassed for Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson. The True Detective actor also unloaded on this year's Oscar ceremony. By the way, pretty good in True Detective, I should say that. I think he was in, season 3? True Detective was a great show. He did not hold back in a recent interview where he skewered modern superhero movies, targeting specifically the upcoming film Black Widow. Although he played a villain, Deacon Frost, in 1998's Blade, yes, a Marvel property, the 47-year-old Dorff told the UK's Independent in a story published Monday that current superhero films are what is wrong with the business. I don't disagree with him. Was it Scorsese said the same thing? I still hunt out the good stuff because I don't want to be in Black Widow, the True Detective actor told the newspaper. It looks like garbage to me. It looks like a bad video game. I'm embarrassed for those people. I'm embarrassed for Scarlett. I'm sure she got paid $5-7 million bucks, but I'm embarrassed for her. I don't want to be in these movies. I really don't. I'll find that kid director that's going to be the next Kubrick, and I'll act for him instead. Now, look, I mean, I don't think Scarlett Johansson is embarrassed one bit. As she sleeps on a pile of money more than all of us watching this video probably make combined. And it is funny coming from Steven Dorff. Now, I don't want to, I'm trying not to clown on Steven because I don't really know if he's ever really been involved in any major controversies. And he's not exactly, wrong. Now, of course, he most recently starred in an MMA-centered film, Embattled, also unloaded on this year's Academy Awards ceremony, which was presented vastly different due to lockdowns. This year's Oscars were the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen, he told the newspaper. My business is becoming a big game show. You have actors that don't have a clue what they're doing. You have filmmakers that don't have a clue what they're doing. We're all in these little boxes on these streamers, TV, film. It's all just a big cluster of content right now. Dorff is hardly the first within Hollywood or even previously starred Marvel property to criticize Marvel and DC films' artistic integrity. Last month, the Incredible Hulk TV series Lou Ferrigno took a shot at MCU and DCU when he tweeted, "Can't think of another superhero that isn't in costume or CGI. Worked darn hard on my diet and exercise for the Hulk. Wasn't going to let anyone down. The Hulk was my hero as a kid as well." Now, again, am I thinking, do I think that it's fair to I love Lou Ferrigno. I actually loved his character on King of Queens. And for the time, I'm not sure that, how do I say, it's not like they had CGI back then. And of course, Black Widow is still projected to do extraordinarily well at the box office. Why? Because Marvel movies are the exact type of movie that are going to do well right now. I talked about it earlier today, and I'll mention it again. The type of movies that are doing well in the cinema right now are just popcorn flicks. Fast and Furious, A Quiet Place 2, Godzilla, Black Widow. These are the films that will do well in the movie theater right now. Black Widow is still projected to break Fast 9's box office record during its opening weekend. Over the first half of 2021, the box office has shown signs of life, suggesting movie theaters have a bright future despite all the hardships caused by the lockdowns. The latest illustration exhibitors were getting back on track was Fast 9, the latest installment of the popular Fast and Furious franchise, buoyed by high anticipation due to this COOF delays. Fast 9 grossed $70 million domestically in the first 3 days, setting a new mark for the post-lockdown era. In a sign of how much things are improving for theaters, it's been long expected for Fast 9's record will not stand long. Marvel's own delayed tentpole Black Widow finally opens in theaters this weekend, I think Thursday. And while it will be available to watch on Disney Plus as part of the streamer's Premier Access, I like how they call it Premier Access. What they really mean is charging a family $30 American to stream something they'll never own to watch on the best possible TV they can, which is whatever they're limited to, whatever they own, not on the big screen with THX sound and all that kind of stuff. In the earliest Black Widow box office projections indicated it would be higher numbers than Fast 9, with moviegoers gearing up for its release. That hasn't changed. According to Deadline, Black Widow is estimated to gross between 80 and 90 million domestically in its opening weekend. This is an improvement since the first figures came out, which pegged it at 65 million. If Black Widow hits this new range, it will break Fast 9's record. Now, I don't think Black Widow is going to be a particularly memorable film. I just don't see any evidence of that. I've got a lot of love for Scarlett Johansson. I've got a lot of love for Black Widow's character. And I almost certainly would have paid to see this movie in the theater pre-lockdown. It's just all the hype's gone now, and everything we're hearing about, the film is not exactly super exciting and super, it doesn't really have me, super pumped to go out and see. Would I stream it? Yeah. Am I paying $30 to do so? No way. Unless, you're a diehard Marvel fan, which is, entirely possible. I know I have viewers that are. This says it's the first Marvel movie to come out within 2 years. There's a great demand for the MCU's return to the big screen. Well, the franchise has kicked off its phase 4 with a trio of TV shows. The films have been the property's crown jewel. The audiences are excited to see Scarlett Johansson finally headlined her own MCU movie. Also, early Black Widow reviews were positive. Yeah, they were above average. I wouldn't say they were, amazing. But what I can tell you is the Eternals is going to be a disaster. I think to save, face, Marvel should strongly consider making the Eternals, Disney Plus only. That movie is probably going to gross 30 to 40 million domestically. Maybe it's going to be an international hit, but they've already got to rule out China based on the director's political leanings. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know why the heck they fast-tracked that film at all, other than maybe more diversity. But yikes, that's not the formula. The Eternals is not the formula that Marvel knows works. Marvel knows that introducing the characters over time as an ensemble cast and then building them up to the point where they can hold a solo film is the formula. Now, with Captain Marvel, they didn't do that, but they didn't have to because they made us all think it was going to be required reading for Endgame. It's going to be interesting to see how Black Widow does in the box office. I do hope it does well. If anything, to not hear the stupid narratives about female-led movie not being great. But I'm not really pumped for Black Widow, Shang-Chi, or the Eternals. Spider-Man No Way Home, sure. I'd probably still see that in the theater, but Spider-Man's about the only thing left for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.